Everyone, and welcome to the General Fund Budget Work Session for the Mayor and Council. It is Monday, April 7th, 2025. The first item on our agenda is so I'll keep it somewhat short and sweet, but there are a few things in the budget that I want to call our attention to before we get started. First and foremost, I do want to thank all of our department heads and everybody that's worked on the budget so far at the staff level. When we started the budget, with all each department sends in their requests, and then they have a meeting with the finance director. When we started this, we were about $500,000 in the red, and I want to commend all of our department heads and our finance director for working through that and defining what you need versus what you maybe can go without. But I also want to call the public and the council's attention to the fact that there are things that we are doing without this year. So as we go through our different departments, you'll see that there are capital requests, there are personnel requests, but there are some things that have had to be pulled just to be able to make the numbers work. So it wasn't an easy year by any means. So thank you, Natalie. Thank you, department heads, for that. I also want to thank my council colleagues, Councilmember Nair and Councilmember Orris, for attending the staff level meetings that we have each year. I know that many other council members always would like to attend, but what we do is try to keep that under a quorum. So anytime we have more than two that want to attend, we'll pull a name out of a hat, and then the two that make it through the random pick are the ones that are extended the invitation for the meeting. So in this particular year, it was Councilmember Orris and Councilmember Nair. So thank you both for being there. This budget that we have in front of us and that we're going to review this evening does keep the tax rate the same, and that's at 82 or 0.8275 cents per $100 of assessed value. So with that, in keeping the tax rate the same, it will generate about $359,000 in additional revenue for FY26, which comes out to about a 7% increase from FY25. I also want to draw everybody's attention to some hard work that our finance department's done, and it's one of the revenue line items that you'll see tonight, and that's our interest earned. It is revenue line item 0140013701, and we'll talk about this as we go forward, but the town and the council, in conjunction with our finance department, have worked very hard to build up our reserves. And with that, due to the interest rate environment and the steps that our finance department has made, and I'm sorry, Melissa, I did not even thank you publicly, but the two of you have worked very, very hard on this budget, so thank you. But the hard work that's been done with our fund balances to be able to make them work for the taxpayers, we're projecting about a $285,000 line item for income just from our interest that's going to be earned over the course of a year. So that's it's a 132% increase from FY25. And I know that as we go through and we look at our fund balance every year, I think I hear some quiet whispers about, okay, are we going to lower taxes, right? And what are we going to do to really take some weight off of the taxpayer? And I want to note that the $285,000 that we're going to gain hopefully this year in interest, that's 80% of the revenue that we're expected to see just from FY25 to FY26 by keeping the tax rate the same. It also equates to about 5.7 cents on the tax rate. So when you get asked that question about, okay, can we lower the tax rate, keep in mind that the work that we're doing with the good financial practices is leading to about 5.7 cents worth of additional revenue. So I think that carries a lot of weight, and also a huge thank you to the finance department for doing that. All right, let's see. The budget that we have in front of us is balanced. It's about $17.4 million, roughly a 22.45% increase from FY25. I know that seems like sticker shock, but with that, I want to draw your attention to some of the capital projects that really caused that increase to occur, right? We'll touch on those this evening, but there's $2.5 million for the town hall renovation. There's $1.16 million for the Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods Federal Highway grant that we've received. $216,000 for Dean's permanent restrooms at Stephen Decatur Park, which is grant funded. $2.8 million, which is bond funded for a new public works facility. So when you adjust that out, it's really not a 22% increase in a given year. So I just want to draw attention to that. Lastly, I want to note that this budget that's in front of us, albeit in a draft format, does contain a $53,000 contingency. It's not perfect, but it's a really good place to be. I'm sure it will change a little bit as we move forward, but just to bring everybody's attention to that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Natalie for our revenue overview.
Good evening. Thank you so much for a brief overview. That was perfect. And to preface all that, or add additionally and emphasize the importance of our reserves, I just want to point out this budget process, and in particular fiscal 26 upcoming budget, is not an easy one for one particular reason. We are advancing a lot from reserves to fund capital projects. And as I mentioned in last week or during our work sessions with departments and mayor, that it is not a good practice. It's not a good practice to advance money from reserves and fund future capital projects. We've worked really hard to build a reserve. That's why we earn a good interest income. And I would like to continue on the same path to be strong, and so the general fund will be sustainable and in a good financial health. But most of the projects that we see on the general fund side and on the utility sides, it's either a carry forward project that funded from reserve or a new project which is ultimately will be funded from potentially reserve. If we unable to connect the projects together year to year and set aside operational revenues for the future, it is not a good practice. And as I said that last week, reading the Friday newspaper from Overview of Ocean City budget, they have done the work session. It's an actual paragraph out there repeating exactly the same thing. They're stating that it is not healthy and is not sustainable. I also want to bring a little article before I go to the revenues from MML magazine, and I'm just going to read a little bit out of here, stating about, in general, the municipality revenues. It's on page 3, and it's Chief Executive Officer for MML, stating that, as the voice for the 160 municipal local governments, let us be clear, Maryland's municipal revenue system is long overdue for a major overhaul. She's also highlighting that we do a lot for municipalities, and the revenues are very outdated. They have not been looked at for a long time. Since all this times in the past, local governments have relied on a narrow set of revenue sources, chiefly property taxes, a small portion of income tax, in which municipal leaders do not have the authority to set rates for their own residents, and limited state funding, mostly in the form of highway user revenue funds. Local governments maintain upwards of 80% of road miles, and that's particularly to the point describes what we are. We maintain all over roads and public works infrastructure and build a new public works building, but unfortunately we rely on our revenues being very stagnant. We don't have increase in service fees, a local tax remains the same. We have no say on the sales tax and pretty much rely on the real estate tax as a revenue for the general fund. It is the reality, and we have to deal with that, but I encourage you to rethink the past and think incremental increase in the tax rate, so that will allow us to plan for 5 and 10 year capital plan in the future and be solid and be sustainable going forward. General fund revenues, as Mayor mentioned, as the bottom number, of course it sounds a lot, but if we take away all the contributions from reserves and we take the bond, it's pretty much unchanged. So our real property tax at $4.9 million, we're starting on page 1, allowing us to receive $359,000 due to the assessed values. And we are going into the reassessment year for the commercial properties for next year. So I would think it would change a little bit, but I also want to bring it up again. I would encourage you to think about incremental increase. We cannot bypass year by year without the increase in the rate. The corporation tax, I'm putting a small or projecting a small decrease just based on what was received in the past. And again, I don't see on the state level, by looking at their budget and projections, there is not an increase out there as well. I'm just going to touch on the items that have a potential difference. We have applied for Worcester County on restricted grant, and we've asked for additional funding out there. So on page 2, you will see a slight increase of $535,000. Hopefully, we will be awarded for that. The large amount in slot revenues, $468,000. It's a projection based on what's been received and how the monthly revenue is coming through. Those funds allocated towards building the amount for LEOPS. Also, we're planning to pay that for the public works for the bond that we will be acquiring, and $15,000 allocated to EMS ambulance as a payment 203 for this particular year. Speed camera fee is a new revenue line item of $100,000, but this amount is totally expensed on the police department side under the capital project. So there is basically no impact on the budget. We're hoping that we will receive that so the police department could fund the capital vehicles and equipment needed. General overhead for water, sewer, and electric stormwater will be recalculated, and that will change our contingency line item on the budget later on. Once we close the utility funds, this amount will be, as I mentioned, recalculated and it will be adjusted. The small amounts as the reimbursements back to the general fund, and you see the 2022 bond. Just a reminder, it's been ongoing for several years, but certain bonds were placed on the general fund from the utilities very, very long ago. It's basically contribution back for the interest paid. Impact fees numbers are much lower. In anticipation of projects, it's hard to tell. I can tell you for fiscal 25, we will not be completing the revenues as projected, so I'm putting it at the very, very low amounts of 10 units, and that is an offset by impact fees that have been placed aside. So basically that it is not an impact on the budget. Interest number, we're hoping we continue to earn interest at the same level. That's a huge help for the general fund.
That's the one we just talked about.
Right. Parks and Recreation grant for the comfort stations. Again, that's a number that we are hoping to receive to proceed with that capital project. You notice that contribution from sewer remained the same, but contribution from stormwater right now is a zero. We're struggling on the stormwater side budget right now with the capital upcoming projects and the revenue collected. Unfortunately, I don't foresee that will be an existing transfer from stormwater, so I'm removing that amount for right now. Contribution from reserve consists of current projects upcoming fiscal 26 and last year or this year projects fiscal 25. We can discuss them when we go to the capital line items, but basically it all either a carry forward item or a new capital project.
And if, just for clarity, it's a wash. So if you take one away, it doesn't add anything to the bottom line. It just cancels up on the revenue side, just so everybody follows the same.
Correct. It's a capital project that is funded from monies that have been set aside in the past or will be advanced from reserve for the future.
Before we go too far, just clarity on page 3, fundraising. That'll fluctuate in a given year. It depends on, like, say we auction the street signs, right? And we do really well. You can see that $1,000 kind of placeholder go up, but it's really difficult to project what that will look like in a given year. So
Fundraising is driven by a specific event or program that we conduct. We don't plan for fundraise, we react to it.
thank you.
That's pretty much all I have
Touch
for
on the
revenue
bond side,
side.
just so that everybody knows what the bond proceeds means.
We have an open bond amount available for building public works. So this amount remains the same. We have a little bit of expenses going on in fiscal '25. So because we have 2.8, I'm placing the full amount, but that's not the exact full number. And that is a reimbursable bond. What it means as we proceed with public works construction, we have to expense the amount first and then ask for reimbursement.
Thank you. Any questions for Natalie regarding the general fund revenues?
Where can I find a number that indicates from the enterprise funds their amount of the administrative services that they take advantage of by being a part of the town of Berlin? For instance, payroll. For instance, your services has an impact to their budget. For instance, the administrative services provided by Murray's office
And this bond.
and this body.
It's an overhead allocation.
Overhead allocation.
That's the exact what you're talking about right now. So the overhead allocation consists of benefited salaries, meaning the salaries, overtime, FICA, retirement, and workers' comp insurance combined together for elected, admin, finance, planning department, and building and grounds. That full amount gets distributed by percent based on how much each fund will close as a budgeted amount for the total entire year. So basically, the larger the fund or the bigger the budget for the fund,
Yeah.
the more percent they would contribute back to the general fund. In our case, electric takes
Yeah,
the
but
biggest because the total amount of budget for the electric and then so forth.
is there a standard percentage used across the board?
It's a formula, total general fund divided into the salaries, the benefited salaries. So the percent derived and multiplied by each fund, that's what they contribute back.
What percentage are they at now?
I think provided, I don't have that in front of me, but if you look at page 2, that general overhead for
Okay.
water, sewer, electric, that's the converted amount from their fund balance to the general fund. But I can send it over.
Thank you.
Any other revenue questions for?
The only one word, just a comment, I just think, as we work through the budget, I think the income tax, obviously we budget conservatively, the county budgets conservatively too. The county budgeted for a 13% increase in income tax this year, so I just want to think there's an opportunity to be a little bit more aggressive with that if we need it down the road. That's all I'm saying. It's in the county budget documents. There's they talk about the new pass-through revenues that will come to the town, and maybe as that picture clears, we just think it's an opportunity to increase it. We know it's under what we're going to receive and understand that budgeting practice, but I think there's an opportunity there.
And I'm also looking at the amount that we have collected for fiscal '25. I'm taking this into consideration, and I'm looking at other municipalities' budget, and they're all going down on the state local income tax.
Right, the county is going up 13%. Pretty telling, I think. That they're the collectors, right?
Yeah, but sometimes we've gotten less, more often than not, we get less than what's projected by the county. Is that correct?
So there is a lot going on to calculate how much we're going to get back from local income tax. The percent the people paying in time, also the average income for the whole entire municipality. They may be projecting because they're on the bigger scale and they have a lot going on. W-2 forms higher than what we get in on the local level.
And I know this is your line item, and I asked Natalie, I said, does this number give you heartburn? And she said, yes. I said, okay, I'm ready to field it from Steve, but I mean, yes, at this level, I think gave you some heartburn.
Normally, I'm more conservative than
Right.
it is.
Wow.
So I think that getting to here is somewhat of
Be
a.
grateful that it's in the budget.
Well, no, I'm not saying that at all. I would never say be grateful. But I'm saying that we're able to close in a spot that gives us some
Right, no,
contingency.
exactly.
That
That's-
I'm willing to be proven wrong,
Right.
you know what I mean? Because we're not relying heavily on that right this moment. But I would never say.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the other thing is HUR, speaking of things that are higher than where we would like to be. Typically, we budget a little bit lower than what the letter specifies, because there have been years where that is not held true. This number that you see here is
So
pretty much to the
January
better.
letter was stating that we are anticipated to receive $386,000 in state highway user revenues, and
We have
I would
three.
always set aside about 20% and budget 80. I'm putting that up to the parent.
Right, in order to
Hoping for
complete
the
the public
best.
works projects that we need.
And the full
However-
entire amount is allocated for public works, streets
Yeah.
projects.
We use it for the way that it's set up, you can use it for like salaries and things of that nature, but we don't.
Not for
We use-
sanitation, we only use for capital projects.
Correct. We always use it for capital, which is good. All right, any other questions for revenues? All right, we'll start with elected officials, which is on page 5. I will say, just to fast forward to page 6, we are going down in elected officials by about 11,000. Looking down the line items, when we meet with the staff, first when we ask staff to produce their budgets to Natalie, we really leave like the fringe, right, to Kelsey, because her department works more closely with our healthcare and workman's comp and things of that nature. So we leave the fringe to Kelsey. One thing that I did ask Natalie and Kelsey both to do was to take all salaries up the step that we all adopted, the step and grade plan. It goes up a step and includes a 2% COLA across the board and for the enterprise fund. So you will see that factored into the salaries, which leads to the increase that you'll see in each department. Now, you'll notice that salaries elected and appointed, 0% increase. Ours are fixed. That's that line item. And you'll see the other full-time equivalent for elected officials. That is reflective with the step and grade and the COLA. Retention will stay the same across departments. I'll let Kelsey, do you want to talk about retention just broadly?
Sure. Sorry.
I can go through the.
Yeah,
other
let's say
stuff
any
if you want.
specific portions you want me to
No,
touch
just,
on, but,
I mean,
we just have the, for retention, we have the Food Lion gift cards that typically come out at Thanksgiving. We have, logoed apparel at $100 for each employee for the year, just, shirts wore to conferences and meetings and things of that nature. We did put in the one-time payment for $300, the same as last year. This does include tax, so it's $325. And then the only thing that has been added this year was a $10 anniversary gift card on employees' work anniversary to a local, they can select a place in the downtown area.
which total for the whole organization is
It's
less than $1,000.
$1,000, yeah. So other than that, I do want to just point out, late in the week last week, I was told that our health renewal came back right now at 6%. I have budgeted 10%, but they're hopeful to still get it down, so I haven't changed anything in here yet. But we're looking at it 6% right now, which would save us $25,000 in the general fund. And then workers' comp, they came back today with an extremely low number, and I said, I don't think that's right. So we're,
Don't trust how low it is.
well, because they'll audit us in September, and I can guarantee you it is not correct. So I'm going back to them tomorrow with updated budget figures, because I don't think the budget figures they are using are, I think they're from a few years ago. So he wasn't sure. He said, I'll have to look into it. So I'm going to send him those tomorrow, and I'll have something back, but hopefully it's going to be lower. And then Legit, we went to their renewal meeting, and I have budgeted 10%, I believe, or did we go 15? sorry, I can't.
15, you said.
15, okay. They actually said right now in the overall trust, they're looking at about an 8%. I'm going to leave it until we get our figure because that's the overall trust and each municipality is going to come back at a different rate. So I'm going to leave it until I hear something from them, but right now they're saying 8% average overall. So that's where we stand with that.
Chelsea, regarding the health insurance, in the department head meetings, did you say there was a 1% discount?
It came back at 7%. We get a 1% discount for early renewal, putting us at 6%. And then he's going back and forth right now trying to get some loyalty credits and stuff and hoping to bring that down to more of a 4 to 5%. But that's not, right now we're 6%. So I don't want to promise anything lower until I know. So right now 6%, which like I said in the general fund is $25,000, electric 5, water resources 7, so a total of $37,000 between all the funds. So.
And keep in mind, as Natalie said earlier, we're pulling a lot out of reserves to cover this budget. So if there's an opportunity to maybe keep some money in reserves, obviously that puts us in a better spot. So we'll reevaluate that as it moves forward. I just don't want anybody thinking that there's going to be this huge slush fund that exists.
Yeah, right.
Because we're really not there.
Yeah, and until we get it in hand, I don't change anything until I see it. So. But that's where we're standing right now.
And there are some figures that are a little lower than where we think they're going to be, predominantly in planning, a department that we've all agreed that we want to invest in because of the given need. So just keep that in mind that some of these things might fluctuate a little bit.
So Kelsey, when will you have firm numbers?
Hopefully soon. Workers' Comp said if I send them the budget figures that we are budgeting tomorrow, they're hoping they can get something back in a week. Legit, I don't know, they usually do come in a little closer to budget introduction. And then healthcare, I'm hoping any day. I mean, this was about a week ago where he called me and said it came back at the 7 with the loyalty credit 6, and they're trying to see if they can get it down more. So I'm hoping I'll hear something soon.
And we'll have Dealey here for the
Yes. Yeah, they didn't think they'd have everything back in time to be here for the work sessions, but they think by the introduction they'll be able to do a presentation. And then Natalie wanted me to just touch on the HRA utilization, the health claims last year. Just a reminder, we did bring that down. It used to be at 65%. We weren't finding that amount was being utilized, so we brought it down to 55, and we left it there this year. So 55% utilization, and right now we're on track for that. So I would anticipate that number is safe. Keep there. So
That was implemented for fiscal 25 budget. So once we are still in the budget of fiscal 25, once we close the year, it would be easier to see whether
Right.
we are eligible to carry that percentage or not. Hopefully it is. If not, that we will have to adjust to the higher percent.
yeah, but as of
We
right
have
now,
no
we're on
choice.
track. Yeah, at this point. So hopefully that's not.
So Kelsey, when you say introduction, that you should have all the information at the introduction of the budget,
Yes.
but not in time for the introduction of the tax rate.
I don't know.
I think for the tax rate, I'm going to introduce the tax rate that currently stands because we have a $53,000 contingency. Signs are showing that we should be a little lower on our health and things that
Yeah.
Kelsey just went over. I think we're gonna stay at that level.
It's the old hurry up and wait. So right now we are, they're working on the back end, but I really don't know until they get it to me. I mean, sometimes, like I said, Care First sometimes has not come back till early part of May. So I think to hear something at the end of March was promising. So hopefully we'll have firmer numbers.
Unless I'm misreading the group, is there an appetite to go a different direction that I'm really missing? Okay. All right.
I have no appetite.
Good. All right.
I'm going to pass this back to Natalie unless you have any more.
Well, no, I'm going to keep going on elected officials.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
Okay.
any more HR questions?
Okay. So then travel, postage, all that stuff stayed relatively the same. You'll see that there's a little bit of an increase on cell phones. That's just ironing out usage and things of that nature. We are spending a little bit more than what we did with the reimbursement to each employee. But with that, the communication is across the organization in a way that it sets us up much better as a public body. All right. So dues and publications, you'll see stay the same. Employee training goes up slightly. That's mainly for the MML conferences, fall, one attendance of fall, and some to the summer. Usually we're a little lower on summer participation, so if there's an urge by somebody that says, hey, look, I want to go to the fall, just to be able to get this class or this topic really appeals to me, we probably have the ability to do that as well. But
And to be able to get our Banner City
Correct.
recognition, which we're not going to get this year.
we will not get this year because Benjamin was born just before the fall conference. So special
He
purpose.
needs to go in the fall.
But
Yes.
when it comes to fall, clear this up for me. It doesn't have to be an elected official, it could be anybody, correct? Fall
For
doesn't
the-
have to be,
For the
for Banner
Banner
City.
City, I think has to be one of
That
those.
was the part I didn't know.
I don't know that that's accurate. I went one year.
I thought it was just
Um,
attendance.
Yeah.
I
And we
went
got
one year
credit.
and we did
I
get
think
a
so.
credit
That's
for
what I
it.
thought.
As
But,
long as your town is represented.
My apologies.
Yeah.
but I could be
Chelsea, you sign
mistaken.
yourself up for something? I'm joking.
It is at the Hyatt at Cambridge. It's a very nice hotel.
Yeah. Mary, you sit up here.
Yeah.
Could we use
I've gone to the fall conference before.
See?
All right, special appropriations stay the same.
So Mary, Mayor, sorry, so you're mentioning this $53,000 contingency.
But that's 53,000 is in administration.
Right, so we'll talk about that when we get there.
Correct. Yep. Special appropriations, office supplies, printing, all that stuff stay the same. Net change of about $11,000 decrease.
Tell me about the cell phones again. I don't understand.
Okay, what's your question?
We went into changing that process is because we were gonna save money with the brick.
With the brick? Yes.
But at the same time, I see an 87% increase. Tell me about it.
That's correct. The cost, Kate can probably speak a little bit more to the charges and things of that nature. It is a little bit more expensive than what we were crediting each employee. The cost per device is $1 a device. We're getting ready to transition to all, probably changing away from the brick.
Allowing the option of
Right.
iPhone versus
Galaxy and type of thing.
Kate Sense of Man.
So it is a little bit more expensive, yes. But in some ways, so the total configuration was also the fact that if we were to acquire the radios that we needed to interface together, that was going to be a substantial cost as well. But overall, the devices themselves have cost a little bit more. But now with that, the important note is that we've received FOIA requests in the past for individual phone records. With that, and I think through the process that we went through, it found that communications on personal devices, if the town did not have a town-owned device, could be subject to Open Meetings Act requests.
FOIA.
FOIA requests, there you are. So to prevent that, we have an approved mechanism for town communication. And that is what we recommend all employees, including council, use.
I had a request.
Go ahead.
Can we do something with this air that's going on?
And I'm over here using my fan.
It was raining outside.
Cold.
It's air.
Stop blowing your jacket.
So while he's adjusting the air, I did look it up. Banner City just says any employee from the municipality, just so you know.
It's awesome. All right. So now, let's see, page 7, admin. Mary, you and your fan are up.
Yeah, Shanika's got gloves on.
You got gloves? Oh my goodness.
I'll just hit kind of the standout items rather than going line by line. Let's see, first thing would be professional services. We have added in some funding for legal expense. There's been legal expense associated with a couple of projects that the town is undertaking, and so we wanted to make sure that was covered. Other things that have increased, just more or less inflationary or ordinary increases, rental office equipment, the town website. Those are, let's see, until we get down to information technology. The large increase on information technology, and by the way, Mike is here from TechMD if you have any specific questions. But the large increase is reflected in the one integer core, actually, I probably should just say integer core. Currently, we are integer 1. Integer core is a far more robust cybersecurity program as we have dealt with in the last year. We've got reporting requirements to various state agencies. There are policies that we will need to adopt and put into place, and integer core will assist us directly with addressing those and answering to those agencies that we have to answer to. Cybersecurity is one of those areas that, in my opinion, you can't skip. You have to.
This is consistent with the audit that we received.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
required.
And the state.
unfunded mandate type
Exactly,
of
yes,
basis.
exactly.
It is consistent with that.
Sorry?
I said it is consistent with that.
Yes. Are there particular
Page 10,
questions?
Jack has the contingency that you.
Oh, well, yeah, that's fine. So I'm just, that's great. I'm just asking because that wasn't in the general, or in our work session meeting packet, so.
No,
how do we-
because Natalie originally in her email said that we had about 36,000, but she had to go through the other calculations.
Specifically, you're talking about the contingency?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the number that
35,000
adjusts.
added to the Worcester County grant. Our
That's correct.
budget work session.
But that's not, so we've made additional calculations that led to that. We can talk more offline if you have any further questions.
Okay.
Is that all right? Sure. Finance is
I
up?
think your question was why was it 0 and now it has a number?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how I understood it.
Yeah, but
So the amount, the leftover amount was left not in the contingency line item. It was just a balance at the end on your original reports. I just wanted you to see. Now I'm closing the budget, I'm balancing the budget. So that leftover amount or revenues over the expenses normally go on that line item. It's just a placeholder, hopefully will remain in the same. So we will have a little bit of a leverage in case we have some exceeding or we will not receive full amount of revenues as projected.
And that number may also fluctuate before the final budget comes before you based on some of Kelsey's numbers that she receives back. So that's kind of the,
Yeah, you had to make all your final adjustments
Yes.
before you could put that in there.
that's the adjusting line.
So that will change before the introduction and probably will change a little bit more after the introduction based on the insurance, overhead, everything else.
So excuse me 1 second. The budget is based on, as far as our employees, a step and 2% COLA.
correct,
Okay, so it's 4.5%.
correct.
Okay.
I also just want to point out in contracted services, because you're going to see this throughout the fund, so I figured I'd mention it. Our CPR AED certification is a 2-year certification, so every other year we are budgeting for that. So that's going to be in all of the administrative departments for each fund.
When you say, I'm sorry, are you talking, when you say that, are you talking everybody in that department?
Every employee in the town gets
So they're not-
recertified every 2 years.
Okay, I
Except
thought
for
it
the police
was-
department.
They do their own.
I thought you guys, I did not know if it was everybody the same year or if it was cycled, like every year there's a group, you know what I
We
mean?
usually do it just every 2 years.
We were going to switch it to that, but the first time we offered it, everybody got on this schedule, and now we all expire at the same time, so it's kind of hard to get off of it unless we double down a
You
year.
let
you know.
some expire, or
Right,
some go
or-
early.
But
or-
the cost isn't that expensive.
No, it's $40 per employee.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the Maryland Time to Care Act. That's for that family paid medical leave insurance program. We joined that consortium through, it was through MACO and MAVE and MML. So they formed a consortium to see if they can, get us lower rates and stuff. And joining the consortium made it to where we won't have to pay into it as early as everyone else in the state. But right now that is 0.9%, and the employee can't pay more than half. So right now, if it stays as it is, it's 0.45% for the employee, 0.45 for the town. Town can pick up more, but the employee can't pick up more. So this is just the consortium fund. The percentage for the insurance hasn't actually started yet. But you're going to see that in here as well. We just broke it up per person. That's all, sorry.
Finance is up.
Finance department, our biggest expense is professional services for the annual audit, and we are obligated to perform a single audit, and also the uniform financial statements, which combines more statistical data for town of Berlin and our financial situation in general. That amount will go up because we will be doing this single audit again. Our grant, all the other grants will require that. Travel and employee training, there is a slight increase, potentially having a person go into more depth classes and training. And in office supplies, we have some computers that are up for replacement. Other than that, the budget pretty much at the same level as it is.
Thank you. Any questions for Natalie regarding finance?
Natalie, are you fully staffed now?
I'm fully staffed, but we're gonna very soon advertise for that additional position. We're working on the job.
Right, that was in last year's budget.
Right.
Natalie, can you talk about the Tyler system a little bit? You put a lot of add-ons in there because it handles much more than it originally did. It now allows you to assemble data from water meters, things like that. So it's become a big part of the Tyler program.
So Tyler, surprisingly, we did not add anything new. We're looking potentially to implement project accounting. We're looking into the code enforcement and zoning option, which they offer. And also we would like to look into the asset and inventory management as well. So those modules, when they will be added, will require additional cost. As of right now, the implementation of the smart meters, it's basically a conversion from one software to another. The only cost we had is where we mass swap the meters and Tyler charges for that. But overall, the implementation itself as ongoing, there is not much of a cost in there, which is really good. Also, I've mentioned in the past, Tyler is very robust, and I don't think we utilize that to the full potential. So
That's what I feel.
going into the training and going into the classes, we need to start using that. Unfortunately, their conference is not cheap, and it's always in Texas because that's where they're located as their headquarters. So I'm hoping maybe for next year we can send at least one person from each department, from like customer service or finance, to catch up on all what's new, what's out there. Even speaking on for myself, budget, I do in Tyler fully right now. It's automated, it's great, but I'm pretty sure there is a lot that I don't know potentially add on how to do it better and faster and smarter and better reports.
Thanks. Thank you. Customer accounts?
Customer accounts, there is not much to change in customer accounts. We're happy to say that we're fully staffed to customer service, and I think my work team, my family work team out there is great. I'm really happy. The rental equipment is all our copier, printer leased downstairs in the big mail stuffer, which this thing is also, I wanna, maybe when we finish the town hall renovation, the mail stuffer it's a very old, antiquated process. Many municipalities outsource that as printing and mailing. We still print in-house, stuff in-house, monthly bills, and mail it in-house. So it's a lot of mail and work involved. And also the stuffer itself, it's a leased equipment. So we need to rethink about this process in the future. There is a slight increase for the postage. I don't think it will be an increase, but I hope not. So all the cost for Tyler technology is under customer service, because customer service as a department gets split between all the funds. General fund keeps per se a bigger portion, but then also all the utility funds participate in the cost of the customer service. The information technology plays totally as the expense. That's why you see that large amount of $66,000 for the entirety of the town. Customer service office supplies also reliable for all of the supplies for the whole entire town. We have discussed the credit card fees, and I think we will follow up later after the budget. There's potential change in our process of credit card fees. We've been in a good situation with our credit card processor for many years. Unfortunately, it's a third-party provider that is going out. It's just going away. There will be not more anymore of the bridge pay that we're dealing with. So we will have to find somebody else Tyler compatible with, and I don't think we will receive the same rates as of right now. So the increase that you see, that's what I'm probably projecting to have it in the credit card processing, but looking at everything else, municipalities pass that cost to the residents for convenience of paying online or using the credit card to finance the purchase. So maybe at later terms we can discuss the convenience fee, incremental or recovery fee.
And we discussed that together in our internal meeting as well, with the council members present, 2 council members present. And we do think that there's probably a need to adjust course on this, given that we're projecting to spend roughly $80,000. I think that Jay had brought up a good point that if you pay with a bank account, there's no fee.
Correct.
Or a debit card. If you pay with a credit card, there is a fee. So should the person that's paying with their bank account or debit card be subsidizing the person that's using their credit card, right? Or should that fee be passed along to the person that's using that mechanism?
Yeah, I think that that's very reasonable. You know, this is different than being charged at a restaurant, you know, which is that's crazy. I mean, 4.5% the other night, but because I didn't have cash. But this is different. You know, this is I think this is something that is truly a convenience fee. You know, not a profit earner. You know, so I think that's sort of reasonable.
And the payments are made online is actually carry a little bit higher rate than if somebody walks in and pays with debit card. So online services do not recognize whether it's a debit or credit. If a person pays at home for invoice or utility bill, it doesn't matter. Now, if it's at the counter, as you mentioned, debit does not earn it, but obviously we're not paying it because we process them, because MasterCard, Discover, and Visa, they're charging us for using their services.
Out of curiosity, do you know, is there any difference if a person sets up an automatic recurring payment from their credit card? Is it handled the same way?
It's the same.
It's the same way.
All right. Any other questions for customer accounts?
Yes, looking at your, I was thinking about your stuffer mailer thing. When you have the budgeted amount here, is that for just the device itself, or is that for the cost of maintaining that thing throughout the year?
It's for leasing the copier printer, the big printer downstairs.
Yeah.
The stuffer. And I believe Public Works, you guys have it too. There's not only one, it's a couple of copiers, printers, Kelsey, right? In that.
Copiers, yes, the mail stuffer is
Mail
just under
stuffer
customer
one,
service.
but the copier, it's a couple of copiers and printers, and also we pay for postage machine, I believe, for the
Okay,
for
I
the
was just-
actual unit to be run.
Got it. So I was thinking about that when you said possibly outsourcing that. If it came to that, would you be able to break down exactly?
Oh, yes,
Like what the
absolutely.
stuffer,
Mhm.
inclubing all of its equipment, you know what I mean, paper
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
that?
We get itemized
Yeah.
invoicing.
Cool.
I'm going off memory here. I want to say the mail stuffer is like 800-ish a quarter, so 32,000 or 3,200 a year. But I might be. I
I'll
know
have to look it up.
Kate has taken
individually.
over the payments, but I believe they're around that amount. So.
All right, anything else on customer account? Okay, let's move on to building and ground. Jimmy, you want to point? Mary, I skipped over you too on the agenda, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize.
I just
thought-
refreshed mine from last year.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You wanted?
No, I really, I don't have anything new to add, just sort of re-emphasize.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Give
We
me your,
will let Mary a chance to speak again.
Give me your-
Hello, Mayor and Council. No real big changes in building and grounds, except for the addition of the work that will be done coming up here in the fall.
yes, Jesse has quite the increase in his budget.
Yes, he did.
So, but other than that, it's all just still the minor stuff that we'll still have to maintain the air conditioners and units and just the clean and presentation around town for the next 6 to 8 months, wherever that leads us into the renovation of the town hall.
Thank you. So let's go to page 16, capital outlay of equipment. I'll run point on the community center line item. There's $200,000 pull from the town's fund balance, which is roughly about $400,000. The reason we're doing that pull is also coinciding with the request that we made from the commissioners for assistance with getting the site ready. And we need to do some demolition of the old multi-purpose building because it is in disrepair. It's led to folks trying to inhabit the area and also the utilities, which electric was secured but not water, and then there was a big water leak in the middle of the winter. So the building needs to come down, and that's why you see that advance there. You'll see the rails and trails matches. Those are a county match and a town contribution designed to help get us ready to go for the initial phase of the rails and trails. The Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods project, that's the federal grant that we're working on to overcome the infrastructure divide of Route 113. And then the town hall renovations, which is on there as well.
Can you talk a little bit about the town hall renovation? A lot of people ask, why do we need to spend $300,000?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll lean on Kelsey a little bit too, and Mary. But when you look at town hall, right, that encompasses what you see as far as the visitors or the customer service, where you would come in and pay your bills, all the way over to the old police station. And when you look at that, it also includes the second floor, which is up here. So with that, a lot of the office spaces that we have are not set up for the current workforce. They are not conducive. We have folks working out of closets. We have folks working right outside of bathrooms in a hallway. We have a staff break room that's in a non-conditioned space. We have Jesse, who's our maintenance worker here, but also helps maintain other town buildings, working in a non-conditioned old police department area, which I think the air quality there is probably big. I don't know where you find that on a number line. It's pretty big.
It wasn't big for us, but.
Well, it's pretty big when you try to put offices in there, right? If you look at the new current plans, that whole downstairs left portion is basically the police station. I think it can house roughly 10 employees, give or take. And with that, we can't use it. So we have those staff that we can't put in good office space, working in closets and working outside of restrooms and hallways. So what we're going to do is have the town hall renovation take place. It will likely occur in December of this year and run through about June or July of next year. Once we have everything, all the employees out of the building as far as work product goes, we're going to open it up for people to come through and see just what the condition is. And then we will also open it back up for a walkthrough to the residents, and anybody that's interested can come through and see the final completion, right? The other side of that is that it's our job, right, as the elected officials, to be the stewards of the building and maintain the things that have historical significance to Berlin. Was a firehouse, was a police station, was an old library, was a dance hall, is now the government hub of the town of Berlin. So I think it's one of the fundamental things that we have to do in maintaining that and making sure it doesn't become degraded.
And if people wanted to see the plans, they are available?
They are available upon request. We can make that. Now, yeah, but now with that, we're not releasing them publicly. We're not, they contain some sensitive information, right? Because like placement of staff, the placement of security that's fundamental, critical security. So we're not just going to push it out for the public, but certainly if you have an interest, reach out to Sarah, 410-641-3858. We can make that happen.
Well, and to add to what you've said, it's a lot of lipstick on a pig. You know, we're finding every time we open a wall, every time, I mean, not that that's happening too often, but every time we do something, there is an underlying issue, and you guys don't see it up here because, you know, leaks go down. All of our ceiling tiles downstairs, there's not a office without some sort of leak somewhere that has taken place, and it's just a lot of bandages that, you know, it's getting hard to keep maintaining those things without starting fresh.
This also includes planning. So it'll be a renovation of that site as well and a new elevator.
What I would like to add, we talked about offices for staff and things of this nature. But this current location does not have a visitor reception area. If someone has to come in and, let's say, meet with the mayor, now that's on the second floor. But if you have to wait, there's no place to wait.
And the main entrance or the rear of the building, we went through a couple iterations. Staff had their input, the mayor and council had their input. Then we leaned on our architects, and it wasn't working originally, right? We wanted to try and maintain the entryway of the old customer service. But then we had ourselves also opening up the backside of the police station for planning. We were like, this isn't working, right? So fortunately, the designers and architecture firm were able to make the central entrance also where people would come in for meetings. So it's no longer that, do I use this door, do I use that door? It's one door that channels in, and then there will be key card access. So during public meeting times, you'll be able to enter again from off of Main Street and Williams. You'll be able to enter from the back of the building and also not have free flow of offices and things of that nature.
And don't be on the phone call and Mary, open the door.
Correct. So it should be much easier. Much.
I was about to say, I didn't even call, I'll just do this.
All right. No problem. Yeah. Anything else for building and grounds? Okay. Let's move on to police chief. You're up.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We'll start off with salary since ours show a little 8%. What we had requested to us by finance was all the specialty pay, differential pay, and everything was moved to salaries from other lines. So that was all incorporated into the salaries. When we come down to professional services, that's a new line, $600 for Central Square, that goes to emergency services.
Just 1 second, if you don't mind, Chief. So this FTO pay, holiday pay, differential pay, the mayor and council action that those adjustments, I would
2 years
say,
ago.
yeah, okay, thank you, Chief. So just as an FYI, that's how they got there.
And they were actually in overtime, and our overtime the year prior was up to $240,000. So again, we're looking at a number that's a lot lower than what it was 2 years ago.
Thank you, Chief.
Then we come down to contracted services. We ended up with 2 actual contracts that are new. One, our mental health contract for a wellness program. That was actually a grant program for 2 years. That comes in at $15,000. And we actually had an addition to our Exxon camera contract. We are hoping that we can go ahead and pay out, if not both of those before the budget year starts, and that can be pulled from that line. If that does happen, it can be reduced by every bit of 15 to 30,000 on that line.
Thank you, Chief.
Other additional, we'll go straight to capital. That is the zero number. So if we, again, put zero out of our anticipated capital programs, we're really going to, Fish is going to go ahead and look at it.
Adding the capital in to 100,000,
Right.
even though it's all speed camera money.
Right.
Showing that we have a 29% increase from last year's capital on the budget. However, it's a 0% increase.
Right, and with that, we had the discussion that we wanted to use, just, I know that we're all on the same page, but just for the public, that speed camera revenues will be used for, similar to like highway user revenues, for capital for the police department.
Correct.
With our hope to push forward 2 to 3 years of capital with the vehicles and not have to worry about hitting it in incoming years, because we have no idea what the projection will be in the next couple of years. Cell phones were already discussed. And school. We have 2 individuals who are actually obtaining their degrees or attempting to obtain their degrees, and that increases the training budget. I think that's all, unless we have any questions.
Okay. Any questions for the chief?
So you said that the overtime, you can't put it in because
Your gloves.
You're wearing gloves.
It's kind of funny, you look like Bernie Sanders. Sorry, I went there.
Overtime is down, it's lower than it was 2 years ago, and this is basically attributed to the fact that we are fully staffed now versus where we were 2 years ago?
That is correct.
Okay. And overtime isn't necessarily a thing that's required anymore, because everybody's there.
You'll still have some overtime.
Well, I mean,
I was gonna say-
that's what I'm saying, it's gone down astronomically.
It's not forced overtime, it's gonna be more contributed to court and events instead of manpower.
Right.
Which the chief and the police department do apply for grant funding to help support some of that. So there are some revenues that come in that are up above in the revenue line item that are speculative grants that should cover some of that. Not all of it, but some of it.
Now, just to add to the capital outline, it's important that they are following the plan, relying on the speed camera fees and placing that to offset the potential capital projects. It's not a good practice. If the speed camera is not going to come with 100,000, they're behind on the schedule for vehicle replacements. So it has to be a decision. We can see how fiscal 26 will perform, but we should not be offsetting speed camera revenue allocated into the capital projects to cover plan that they have in place.
And that's why we have there say it should be a zero. If we don't make a single dime, then we shouldn't have anything in capital.
But
We
that's
can't
not a
have-
good practice.
Right. I'm saying, we can't. So again, the projections are we're gonna get, as she has it written down, $100,000. We have no idea what those numbers are.
It's an arrow in the sky right now with 100,000. It could be nothing, it could be 200, just like we have for fiscal 25. So we need to commit back to, for them to be on the schedule for capital projects.
Yes, but it's my understanding that we're not off the schedule. Because this year and we had a conversation about this, Chief, that this year we had 180-ish thousand in speed camera revenue. And I think you touched on it a moment ago, we're trying to buy a little bit ahead because we know that's in the bank. And this 100,000 is lighter than what we've received so far, but still very speculative. So this is a year of the unknown, but I want to make sure it's clearly noted that we are not behind on capital.
The whole thought process is, we know what we need for next year. We're gonna buy right before next year with the funds.
Right. Anything for the police department? Okay, let's move on to Public Works. Give me your up.
So there's no really change to contracted services. We had this increase there, and that's mainly to cover our uniforms. We have 9 employees that wear full uniforms, pants, shirts, and all that. So, and then, of course, there's always new fees in today's world with everything's a little more expensive to have uniforms delivered, washed, and brought back each week.
But when you have folks doing the work that your department does,
Correct.
it's very essential to have that.
Yeah, because a lot of times these guys have grease on their uniforms and all that. We don't want them taking that home in their cars and that type of stuff, so.
Or dealing with waste and then taking that.
Correct. We can move down, not many changes in Public Works. Till
You
we
got a
get
big, you
to,
got a big change on page 22, and you'll see that the capital outlay that we talked about a moment ago with the new Public Works facility.
correct, we had one big change and that's that we're all working towards.
Yes, absolutely.
Good thing. And that will take us through Public Works to move.
Any questions regarding Public Works from the council? Okay, move on to sanitation, page 25.
If we go down to, again, capital outlay, there's not much change in the first portion of sanitation. Good news, our new automated trash truck that we started last January will be delivered next week.
That's awesome.
So we're
In
excited.
January of '24.
Right, how many months was that?
We're going on what, 13, 14, 15? 15 months.
We can give it his birthday.
But you'll see,
A year and 3 months old by the time we get it.
but that's consistent with some of the other stuff you'll see in the enterprise fund as well.
Correct. And that's why I came back to you last year in January, because if we didn't, when we did it in July, we would still be
Thanks, Dave.
7, 8 months out.
All right, any questions for sanitation?
Yeah, thank you.
Capital outlay equipment, all of the downtown receptacles will be funded from impact fees.
Thank you.
And that's downtown receptacles, ordering, know we have enough regular trash cans for any new service that are coming up, and then lids, we always are out replacing lids.
Except for that one customer.
I saw that.
Who Jimmy or fixed their own lid with the little ratchety thing.
Put a
they
little
on
piece
there.
of metal on it to hold it.
Yeah.
All right, streets, page 27.
We'll move down, streets, probably not much change up on the upper part.
Let's stop it.
Professional services?
Okay. Yeah. Yes, please.
Roadway evaluation update, that is the last update to the road, to the list of streets from the poorest to the best, was last done in 2018, and we're going to have that, we're sending information to DB&F so we can get an updated report for 2025, which is going 7-8 years down.
Yep, and that helps track what streets we put in our fiscal year budget for replacements.
Correct.
Yep. And then the parking study, downtown ARPA, that is,
We had an assigned amount, that's just a carry forward to complete the study.
and that's an analysis of the available parking that we have and to hopefully bring the improvements to where we need them. They will not make the improvements for 27,000, but it will help us develop a plan to make the improvements. All right,
Hey.
page 28.
One thing with the parking study too, that will also list the streets, but some of them streets we can't always fix till water, sewer, and other utilities sometimes need service before we can come in and pave them.
Right, so just so that everybody's aware, that means that just because you see your street as number one, it might, there's still some staff discretion that has to be applied because we don't want to repave a street and then have water come in and have to tear it up to be able to put in new water lines. So we try to stagger those, and your department works great with water and electric to just be able to make sure that that infrastructure is changed at the same time that the street's paved.
Working together to get the most efficiency out of that.
There you go. Yeah.
And Mayor, before we move to next page,
Yes.
I just want to point that Jimmy's budget carries a payment for us farmer's market person under the seasonal. So that's one of the services that we provide as well.
And we'll probably have the 2 seasonals come back.
Great.
They have also been placed on the step and grade, not at a high level, but that way they still get those
Correct.
incentives for returning. And we've had, consistent with some of their improved work abilities because they've aged up.
Independence.
Independence, there you go. Good job.
So the 2 we have coming back, James will be his 4th year, and Garen will be his 3rd year returning. So we're excited to have him come back.
And the third person, all 3 of these folks.
And the 3rd person is the gentleman that works the farmer's market,
Yeah.
setting up everything, tearing down, and then being on staff for that.
Got it.
Page 28.
Capital layout, list of the streets,
He always does that.
outlet. I did on purpose, so you guys catch
Good job. We're on our toes.
it. Bridge, we have, some of the streets are a couple carryovers, and then, Washington Street is new, and then we also have the West Street parking lot.
Washington Street, let's add clarity. So Washington Street is to the west side of West Street. So
Right.
the area from where you would go to the ice plant over to Broad.
Correct. And then there's some equipment in there that we're looking to keep upgraded. It allows us to utilize the equipment that skid steer will use in the parks and stuff too. And another grass cutter is always needed. A lot of equipment, we just need to continue to keep replacing. Another truck. We had a truck that, its engine started to fail.
Well,
So-
it literally stopped running when we had it out
Yeah.
for the electric lines that went down by the hospital. Jimmy and I were together, what was it, around midnight?
Yeah.
And we looked down, and Jimmy's like, I don't think that truck's running anymore.
Yeah.
So we went in there, we had to jump start it. Sure enough, it's not reliable. So- And it was blocking traffic and trying to tell people to not come that way, so it's kind of essential.
Is this a 2001?
Actually, no, this is a 13-year-old truck. We were gonna replace the 20-year-old truck, but the 13-year-old truck started having engine issues. And at that point, I think it has 80 or 90,000 on it, and there's no sense trying to add $5,000, $6,000 to a truck that we're hoping to get a couple more years out of. So at that point, it should be going on Gov Deals when we finish.
I guess I shouldn't have said that it cut off. It's on go.
Well,
I don't know if it's really a deal.
we're gonna list that there's engine issues
Just
for that truck.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Neil.
There's a lot of trucks with Gov Deals that are on there for a
I'm just
reason.
joking.
So we're not replacing a 2001, we are replacing a 2013?
Yes.
So
I'll change
this is
that.
gonna be a replace, changing the, got it.
You know what? I misspoke. So the truck we got this year, we used to replace the truck that is inspiring now. So this truck that will replace the 20-year-old truck in this year.
Okay.
It's okay.
So the truck we just purchased 3 months ago took over the place of the truck that was, the 2013.
Okay.
That was from last year that we were gonna do that, but now we're back to trying to replace the 2001 truck. So yes.
It's only 24
That's
years
why we
old.
need an asset and inventory tracking mechanism in Tyler.
Yeah, right.
And then after the capital outlay, there's no other.
Well, let's just talk about impact fees just for a
Okay.
moment. They're projected, they correlate with development. So we're probably anticipating a soft year on that, which is why you see the impact fees a little lower. Is that correct, Natalie?
Correct, and just what we project for next year, we do not advance. The advancement of impact fees for particular projects like downtown receptacles or anywhere you will see the impact fees reserve, that's from already being collected in the past and what's in the reserve. So reserves being advanced from impact fees. HUR stands for highway user revenues, that's current projections of 380,000 allocated to the project, so let's hope we lose.
So if I could jump in here, because I think for the good of the full group, that maybe wasn't at the BCA meeting last week, the Washington Street paving, Mary you mentioned it, it's the part west of West Street that would connect with Broad. So the concept there is to encourage motorists to head west out of the parking lot, and instead of coming back to Washington and west. So there's that point, but then you see the 75,000, then Mayor, correct me if that is due to the improvements that we needed to get this lot open in the summer, to the plan being currently to go grass
Correct.
with, for the summer.
For year one.
Yes, we're in April now, the planning commission, hopefully we're going to get them in May. So we have stormwater work that's being done correct now, the analysis.
Well, actually, if we go grass, the stormwater engineer said there's no impact to stormwater right now.
So, okay, so then,
So the lot can be, if it's grass, we'll put up the fence, we'll do the landscaping that we want to do, and it will be a grass lot.
Okay.
for now.
Sign.
And the aprons and the signage.
right, at parking blocks.
Yep.
Yeah. So we still need to go to planning commission in May?
I don't know if it will be in May, but it will need to go to planning commission. It's a fairly light lift because we're not doing
Yeah.
a lot of physical improvement, but yeah.
Gotcha.
They need to see it and, yeah.
For the site plan approval.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I just wanted to explain that, because the Washington Street, that was first I heard about it the other night was, that, if if you're back there, it needs to be, it's probably needs to be done a long time. It's not a highly traveled vehicular road right presently, but it will be in the parking lot.
Yes, it will be.
Yeah, that's just what, it's probably the first time somebody heard that part. So,
Thank you so much.
I wrote on that, it's horribly bumpy.
yeah.
All right. Let's see. Anything else you want to draw attention to in the streets, or we can, excuse me?
The only thing I'll add is the street signs. We are actually completed the street signs, but what we'll look at now is stop signs. A lot of the stop signs are going from 24 by 24 to 30 by 30. So we'll have to go back and upgrade to the new standard of
You won't miss
DOT
that.
stop signs. And then even your speed limit signs need to be all the high impression print and stuff like that. We have a lot of speed limit signs that are dated, not really reflective, and we'll work with the chief and the police to make sure that they need more or less in the locations. But, so we'll do all the street signs, no parking signs throughout the town, and even like no U-turns and school signs and school crossing signs. So that's where our next money will be budgeted to start trying to
And
keep our signs
off all
up.
those signs?
We are working with
Are
it.
we selling all those signs still?
Not that it stops.
So we actually, today, we took all the signs and we alphabetically ordered them. We took pictures of everything. So all that'll be coming to Sarah hopefully within a week.
Can I put in my order already?
Yeah,
That's
I
not
told
how
you
it
$5 million.
works, Councilmember Nichols.
But I'll let you buy yours for $5 million.
5 mil.
I'm printing the stickers.
All right, any questions for street? All right, let's move on to, hold on, I might need Jay's turn pages, service, economic development. Are we going to point there?
Ivy had a previous conference that she was committed to for this week, so I will just touch on some highlights in her budget. One of the items is a sort of an additional increase in what you've been seeing for salaries, because Allison is moving from less than 40 hours to 40 hours, so that has those.
With additional job duties?
Yes.
For the department?
She had been on a modified schedule of less than 40 hours. I'm not 35.
1664 annually
Annually,
instead of
yeah.
2080. So she was working 32-hour work weeks instead of 40.
Right.
Well, she's gonna be split between departments though, right?
Nope. She's always been 100% in economic development.
Yeah, that's what I knew, but,
You're thinking of that.
okay, my, yeah,
It's okay.
all of it.
It's okay.
So that is one thing she notes as a notable adjustment, as she says. The budget also includes a reduction in travel expenses, and other than that, it's pretty much consistent.
Mary, do you
Yes.
remember, excuse me, I was actually going to try to stay quiet. But do you remember in our general fund meeting that what Ivy said for the donations, sponsorships for fireworks was? How we did?
I do not remember.
She'll be here for the
Yeah.
introduction side, so we can
Yeah.
always ask that.
I think
Or
whatever,
get clarity.
yeah,
She said she always finds one. I mean, she always gets it.
right.
It wasn't really going as planned, so I don't think there is actual sponsorships going on.
I do think she said, yeah, the donations were down in general on some of those things. I recall.
All right. So, any other questions for economic development? Do you want us to get clarity from Ivy for you via email?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I mean, she had mentioned that.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not.
That way to the whole group so that we all have.
Mm-hmm.
And then planning, Ryan, you're up. We're on page 33.
Okay, you will see an increase in salaries. That is due to our department getting 2 new employees. One we do currently have. She's our GIS specialist. Is that-
Analyst.
Analyst, okay, sorry.
No.
And then code enforcement.
So with GIS,
What was
so
that?
what we're doing,
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement?
I know, you're very excited.
I'm very excited.
Me too, me too.
Okay.
Let me go home and cut my grass.
it's funny because Dave used to say that he had a tattoo and he would just lift his pant leg up and if it was higher than the tattoo, he knew you got a citation. So Ryan, you gotta get a tattoo on your leg. All right, All right, so the GIS, all seriousness, GIS. We have Megan, who's an employee that worked in water, went and got her master's degree in GIS, is now moved over to planning because she's graduated and has a skill set that we can lean on. She will be a portion of her salary now. Then we'll say something. I want to make sure if I misstate you.
Salary for
Megan is pulled from a couple.
As of right now, as of fiscal 25, it's still going to be covered by home department.
Correct, which
And
is
then
water.
fiscal 26 will be a new planning and zoning department for her salaries.
So it's going to come out of general fund?
It's gonna, she's part of the overhead allocation,
There you go.
but she will be 100% allocated to a planning department as salaries.
For
And
26?
For
For
fiscal
FY
26.
So with that, one of the key roles that we're leaning on this person for is we've got an outdated town map. We have an outdated, we really don't have a clear understanding of well, we've got it, but it's just hodgepodge of like our electric service territory, water and sewer infrastructure. So we're using that position to really help get some more robust mapping there. Zoning wise, Ryan, you want to touch on zoning? Enforcement.
Code enforcement?
Code enforcement, there you go.
Yes, so right now we are taking applications for our code enforcement officers, so hopefully we get them on before grass season.
Say that one more time. You're taking applications for not the grass season, but you're taking currently accepting applications for the code enforcement.
Yes, we are. Yep.
And the criteria or the prerequisites and that information can be seen on the website, all that stuff.
Sweet, yep, it is posted online.
So excited.
And we have a handful of applicants, that we're going to probably discuss here sometime later this week and see where we stand, so.
Yep. All right, Ryan, you're up.
Okay. Professional services, you'll see an increase in that. That is because we are bringing in legal services specific to just the planning department.
And with your boards, the direct report, where you have a staff liaison capacity. So BZA, Planning Commission, and HTC.
So there will now be town attorneys, I think.
There will be, so we don't have,
Yeah.
to get full coverage there is much more than 50,000. So there will be strategic placement if an agenda item requires some of that. There will also be, out of this fund, the ability for staff to lean on some of those services. So might not be at every meeting, but if there's a need, then it'll be there. Now with that, Gaskell brought up a good point that there could be times where you need separate legal counsel for one of those boards or commissions versus the mayor and council or the town as a whole. So it's good to have a slightly,
There are conflicts.
thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's been needed, honestly. I think we've seen it over the last couple of years, so I think that's,
This will be
honestly,
a
it's-
pilot year.
it supports the town in many ways. Supports the-
Back in the day, I went, Mayor Cardinale asked me to go to several planning commission meetings, and it didn't go well. I tried to offer my opinion on what the law was, and at one point I got yelled at and told to get the hell out of the room. And so that's when I told Mayor Cardinale,
Not doing that.
not going over there.
Well, this is a pilot. We don't know where it'll come in at, but we're going to keep close eye on it. But it is a pilot year.
Okay, contracted services, you'll see an increase in that. That's partially due to our code enforcement software that I want to bring on. It not only does code enforcement, but it does permits, licensing, planning, and it basically is like a tracking tracking program. So we're going to be less paper, more electronic.
We like
So,
that.
pretty
What's
excited
this
for
program
that.
called?
So I did a live demo with a company called Cloud Permit. So they do track all of those items, but then I just recently found out that Tyler also offers something very similar, so, I mean, we have options.
Yes.
We have
This
options.
gave us a budgetary number, but there are options to look
Yeah.
at different companies.
talk a little bit about the user, the resident side. So let's say I want to make a permit application for a fence.
Yeah, so when I did the live demo, it was pretty neat because they kind of described it like when you order a pizza. They're like Papa John's, how it says, you know, we received your order, preparing, baking, ready for pickup. It was like, yeah, you literally could watch it go through the process. It was like, we've received your permit, reviewing permit, permit's been approved. You can come pick up your permit.
And that
It
type
shows-
of process is with.
It shows
with
it
all
right
of
down the
these-
line.
With all of these software folks you're looking at, or with one specific that does that?
Cloud Permit's the only
Oh, Cloud,
person
okay.
that I have talked to as of right now,
Got
but
it.
that company does do that, which I thought was a really neat feature.
Yeah.
I'm just, I can't.
Can't even contain
I just
yourself.
can't, I am speechless.
You know,
Well,
Well, it's good to spend
I
some
forgot how
time on
cold I
it.
was.
It's a massive investment.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it's good to spend some time on that. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Capital outlay, that's a big one. That's our comp plan update, impact fee study, and then another vehicle for the planning department.
And explain, so let's start with the comp plan. And I keep hopping in a little bit just because we want to add a little bit of clarity to some of this. The comp plan update, we think we might need 150 for that, but due to the budget constraints, we're at 100. We don't know where it's going to come in at until we do a RFP, but know that this number's probably light, and it's light because of available funding within the FY26 budget. So when we talked earlier about the original deficit of about $500,000 before we started to cut down on some of the things within each department, the 100 is light, and I just want everybody to understand that.
And we base that on having talked to other towns about what they have done in their comp plan updates and reviews, and I think 100 is probably not.
Now, the planning vehicle, talk a little bit about the fact that you have your additional personnel and
Yes.
only one vehicle, and some of them are going to be working out of office.
Yeah, so we are going to have 2 positions that are going to need to be out of the office. We currently only have 1 vehicle right now. I would assume that would
that's a
be
little
for...
green enforcement.
Yeah, yep, the one that says code enforcement. So our GIS person will need some sort of car to get around to do her duties as well.
And the vehicle that's being proposed is not going to be like a heavy-duty pickup truck, it's going to be a utilitarian kind of vehicle.
All right?
It's like
I don't know if I
big
have
enough to get the job done, but not.
I don't know if I have a concern about the statement the mayor just made.
Which part?
About it should be 150, but we budgeted 100 because of the deficit. So are you implying to us that this budget is not realistic?
I'm implying
Or
that
just
that
how you
number-
take that comment?
Well, I would take it as we do a comp plan every 10 years. Ours is outdated by several. We've not done one, so it's really hard to go back and say how much that costs. We have in-house experts that say you should put 150. We've done some internal research that shows that 100 might be light, but we really don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like the impact fees that we adopted last year. We really don't know what that study's going to cost us. So is it light, is it heavy? We're trying to put our best foot forward, but I want you to be aware that it is speculative and it's based off of some assumptions. No problem. Anything else in planning? that you want to touch? Okay, any questions for Ryan regarding planning? You will see, working through, there's some additional conferences I do want to note, because this is a department where we are seeing 100% increase. So I want to be clear on the fact that we are investing heavily in planning because we have noted that as a deficit.
Yeah, what are the classes?
So go ahead and talk about some of those if you don't
Sure.
mind.
So these are SUZOA classes. That stands for Code Enforcement and Zoning Official Association. So they do a quarterly meeting around different municipalities in Maryland. So I would like for myself as well as my code enforcement officer to go to these. I actually just went to one last month. They vary in the topic, but they're pretty informative. They also do a yearly conference. It varies every year for the conference where it is. This year I believe it's in St. Louis. But those conferences are very similar to like a MML, where you just go to different rooms. They have different courses. It's very informative.
And then some of the office supplies, some of that's technical equipment that's needed, like hardware and.
Yeah, so some of this equipment is going to be anything that our GIS person or code enforcement officer will need, as well as a new plotter.
Which explain what that means.
So this is a big piece of machinery that we need for plans. Right now we have one, it's broken, it's not serving a purpose, and we need to be able to have an operating one.
How long has that plotter been broken?
Since I've been here, yeah, about 9 years. I think it worked the very first year I was
I'm so glad you
here,
said
but-
that, because I mean, it's just been,
So if I were to ask what this machine does, and you say to me, it does plots, is that what it does?
So really you can take a huge plan, when somebody submits a plan, you can scan it and make it electronic.
Okay.
It's
Also,
probably why we had
and
so
then in
much
reverse.
paper.
You can also,
I mean, it's a
you
big
can also
scanner.
print
You can print
large
plans from
format
it.
things.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
when it did work,
you know,
I
the
know
one
Ivy
with the-
used
Oh,
it
yeah.
to print banners.
Banners,
not
yes.
banners, but
We
signs.
get charged by the architect anyway, if we ask for plans, we should be able to print them ourselves at that size. The town should have that capability, we're getting charged a premium for it, so I'll be very pleased when we have our own.
Jamie will be able to use this, we'll be able to use this. DBF can actually send it to us,
This is great.
and we can print it off. So we actually, instead of us buying it from DBF or other contractors. Like the blueprints we get when we lay out
Yeah.
the drawings of the town inside.
Drawings right there.
That's what it'll be producing.
We're okay paying for it, but it should have been paid for 9 years ago.
So at the end of the day, this plotter and its usage will be able to come off of everybody. A little bit of the line items, budgeted items for folks in the future, as far as expenditures. I'm not gonna say huge amounts, but you know what I mean, a tiny enough amount that makes a difference in what you're spending on getting something that you can pull in-house from this point forward.
Yeah,
I mean, you'll
example-
spend some money on it, of
Oh.
course, but
Quick
it'll pay for
example.
itself after a bit.
Quick example is, we're working with Becker Morgan, and we're designing our public works building. They could actually send a digital copy over to us, instead of waiting till our next meeting, and then they bleed plans, and then we're reviewing and passing them on to Jamie. They could actually come to Ryan, she could print them out for us, and then Jamie and I could look at them, and Tim, and then we would actually be ahead of the game in a way.
You could even mark it up, scan it, and send it back.
And then mark it up and send it.
Yeah, when they come, and I completely understand this, they bring one set, because it's expensive to produce
Yeah,
it. So they come, we go over it, and then they walk out the door with the only set. So we have no, record of what the conversation was to fall back on.
So they can send it electronically, and we can print it ourselves.
Or we can scan what they bring, either way.
That works.
I can add too, ironically, we've had several PAA requests recently from residents requesting the large-scale plans of development of roadways or whatnot, and we don't have the capability of printing them in-house, so we often have to refer to our third-party contractors, DVF, EA, to do that for us. So having the capability to do that in real time, I think would just be
Yes.
incredibly
Yeah.
beneficial.
And this cost would be passed on to the person making the request, so
For sure.
that if we print them off for somebody, they would be paying the cost of whatever that paper
Be a little bit
is.
more
and ink.
economical.
Yeah, we would be charging them for what it actually costs
Right,
us,
right.
rather than what the engineer charges us.
Right, and, yeah, first.
All right, Parks and Rec, Kate, you want the point, or Jimmy, or both of you?
The department head got this one.
Okay, Jimmy, you're up.
We'll start with
The
contracted.
layout.
We are in, no, we're in contracted services first, please.
I'm just teasing you.
we're in need of new signage in the park, so we have an increase to cover for new signage. All our park signs are all really dated and outdated. New rules and that type of
Jack, I believe
information.
Yes, thank you, Jim.
Yep. Now, the capital outlay equipment. We're looking at a new fence. The fence at Henry Park is in very poor condition and it's fallen down. And so we're looking at replacing that. At Stephen Decatur Park, we're looking at, there's two pieces that are still in there that when we get inspected, it has fall issues. The height is too high that they deem could be fall issues. And the other one is so we have the red arch climber, which has a too high. 20 years ago, it wasn't too high, but now it's in the report that it gets, dinged in our inspection. And then the red spring jumper is the same, another piece of equipment. It's kind of outdated and safety issue violations.
They're making you take that, get rid of that completely, right? The red spring jumper thing.
Who does that inspection?
We have an outside agency that comes in, and then him and Cody will walk around all the equipment, and they have a set of guidelines for playground inspection, and then they do an annual inspection. That fee's in here, that we have a fee for that.
Look, right above capital outlay equipment, $1,500 for playground inspection. We inspect both Henry and Stephen Decatur Park for that price, and it's far worth it rather than sending someone to get certified.
And it's a third party. which
Yes,
is nice.
exactly.
That's third
And
party.
the other side of that is, change could be good, we're talking about Ryan's department, but before Jimmy, we wouldn't fund this every year. And now it's a reoccurring, every year line item to get our equipment inspected, which is a good thing.
And
So-
Public Works and Cody have worked really hard at updating this. And some of the things we learned too, we just couldn't go and use bolts and stuff. Like, there are specific bolts that fall under safety categories. Because the one day there was a bolt out, and we put a new bolt in. But that's something that we didn't think about, that potentially someone's hood could get caught on that. So we learned a lot from going to some classes and stuff, and now we use original equipment maintenance.
$75.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but.
Safe ones.
Yeah.
Yep, so we've learned a lot, and we've gone through and updated, we removed old paint, scratched and repainted with the proper paint, nuts and bolts and fences and, ropes and all that, so. Our report was probably, I want to say if it was 50 pages when we first started, we're probably down to about 25.
That's really.
But they thank you for any, something that's 20 years old, we're still getting a low, If the mulch gets kicked out of one of the places because the same kid kicks it out, we get things, there's little stuff like that. But we re-break it and we just continue to do maintenance in the playground areas.
So now we've talked about the comfort station, but one thing, we're talking about like speculative pricing. The way that the grant's set up for this, it's the community parks and playground, where you might make the request and you find out a year later if you get the award, then your pricing's out of date. So we've carried this for a little while, trying to find some funding that bridges that gap, because the cost of building a new restroom, a permanent restroom, increased substantially. So what we talked about in the internal staff meeting, this should get it done, but if it doesn't, if we are missing it by some amount, we're going to come back and revisit that together to get it off the books. All right? So just so that we're all aware.
It's a very frustrating grant process because
I
it
think
takes so
this-
long that your prices are just gone by the time.
Yeah, it's been like 6 years.
This price has doubled since we started this
Oh,
process.
easily.
The first year, I think we were like $1.25.
Right.
And by the time the grant came in and all that process, it was up to $2.
Dean, go ahead and say that again in the mic.
My granddaughter is now 14. We started this when she was 3.
I truly thought this was for when Josh was little.
No, it was,
Caden.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Jimmy, keep going.
And that will take me through the parks and.
Perfect. All right. Natalie, you're up with that service.
Wait, you didn't let us ask the question.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Any questions for Jimmy regarding Parks and Rec?
The only question I had was your Henry Park fencing. Are you looking to replace it with something that's comparable to what's already there, or is it something different?
So yes, we're looking to do something very similar to what we have. We had conversations with the chief and stuff about maybe using a full enclosed panel, but then that created visibility, and we didn't want to have that. And we're going to create some areas that, better gates. Even though we don't want gates to the highway, we still see a lot of travel through that way. And unfortunately, we see some damage because they want to cross right at a particular area, and there's a section missing on it all the time. So,
When he says gates, he does not mean an actual gate.
Yeah.
so what I think is, when people are leaving the park, they're going to take the shortest route.
For sure.
And if it's walking across the street, that's where the people are walking to. They're not going to walk down to the bait and flower and make the proper, but we'll just try to put some safety gates there, safety panels that they can proceed through without, so. Yes, we're looking at something very, very similar to what we have. And that will do the whole thing, from the apartments to the highway, and then back around across, right behind Mr. Bedell.
Yeah.
Mr. Bedell's property.
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was thinking about your fencing, and then, the mayor's not here right at this moment, but the bridging the gap process. If, you know what I mean, if that's something that really still happens, taking those two in conjunction, because I know that there were a lot of different things, talking about different ways to use those funds for different things, but maybe just when you're talking about the possibility of a gate, not a gate that latches, but, you know what I mean, something that could be,
An opening of
yes, if it needed to be worked. You know what I mean, if there was something bridging, but of course not crossing right there, but you know what I'm saying? Later with your gating, depending upon how your fencing, depending upon how this bridging the gap, whatever worked out. Yeah, just making sure that they work in conjunction. Because like you said, somebody is going to try to take, I mean, that's always, the path of least resistance is always the way to go.
All right, debt service, Natalie, you're up.
Debt service general fund, one of the bonds has been completed and paid off. With additional public works bond, debt service for that is a $45,000 for the public principal under the debt service, and $136,000 in interest. Even with the new bond, a decrease because we have completed one of the old bonds.
Thank you. Any questions regarding debt service? All right, up next, we just did that to close out the last page of our document, and then now we have agenda item 6, which is the Berlin Fire Company and Berlin Fire Company EMS budgetary request for FY26. And we have Chief Andy Grundy and President David Fitzgerald.
Speak up, Mayor. I can't hear you over my chattering teeth.
Just because you have your gloves on. Go ahead and put your burning gloves back on. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Sorry it's a little behind, but we appreciate you being here.
To reduce the video speed budget, I account for, I think, 5% of that. So I'm trying to cut back this year.
Please don't. We're
pretty sure I bought a police car this year.
Yep, you are buying police cars and other capital improvements.
I bought half of a police car, and apparently I'm a menace.
Well, thank you, Andy, for your contribution.
You're not welcome.
Go ahead, however you want to take it off.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'll wait for the back.
Thank you.
So, so the fire company got just a cover sheet. I won't bore you with reading all of that. Providing the fire and rescue services with 55 volunteer personnel that don't have any labor costs whatsoever, or volunteer to provide majority of the service. They are supplemented by some of the career staff that's within the EMS budget. So our increase this year that we talked about several times in the work session, going from 200 to 205,000. So that's just a cover letter. Jim, if you want to go over. The second page is the spreadsheet that we always give you, like, where I want to know where we are, where we're coming from. So that has, the first column is this year's current budget and where we are into an 8 and 9 month expenditure. The reason that's 8 to 9 months is when we print the reports, when I did the spreadsheet, you make all of our March bills, which would give us that 9th month on it. For example, like the electric bill, I know it hadn't been put in yet, the water and sewer bill, there's other bills that are going there. So that's between 8 and 9 months. And then you'll see the FY 25-26 proposed budget. And if you go to the next page, it'll give you.
Their water and sewer bill stays the same, right? It's not based off of usage. You receive
No,
the minimum bill.
but it's not plugged into that
Oh, okay.
expenditure because we haven't paid it.
Okay, I was just making sure that we were on the same page.
So, the next page is the explanation of any significant changes that you hear from your department head. We did adjust fundraisers down quite a bit. We're not doing the Friday night dinners. It's all we can do, as we've said before. We've got 55 dedicated personnel that are volunteering their time for the emergency calls, the mandatory training, and other things. So the Friday night dinners and things we're doing, number one, the food costs have gone up. They'll go to the grocery store. They're just not feasible. We did make some adjustment because we weren't sure exactly when the parking would go into effect at Western Washington. So we were pretty sure we would have a decrease in revenue because people would much rather park and walk 2 blocks than 4 blocks. So
Yours is paved.
So, well, it's only 20 cars are paved. Well, the main lot and then across in Harrison Avenue. So we did conservatively look at that number. And the town funding, you know, it's based on our request. We have had, the chart is in here later, the $200,000. We've been at that number since FY 2008. So we fell from 25 to 2008, with some exceptions based on zeros and then some additional capital funding in a couple of years. But for the most part, we've been at that same number for quite some time. The expenses, just like you hear everywhere else, the occupancy, we got some of our service agreements in. They are going up. The repairs and budget trends are going up on the building. We do have to, if you want us to pull in the parking lot, please don't pull up on the front concrete pad, pull in the parking lot. But if you want to go look in front of the firehouse, in front of that first door, we have some concrete that's going to have to be replaced. That is not a simple task. That concrete is 12 to 16 inches thick, and at least one section is going to have to be jackhammered out and fixed. It's coming up, and we have heavy equipment, so that's a repair that's in our budget. We'll bid it out, but we reached out to some concrete vendors, and that's just not a simple task. And then utility increases, and not just talking like the towns, but the other power, the other utilities that we have, propane and natural gas. Insurance is going to go up per our estimated premium quote. We won't get our full premium until we go through our risk management with BFIS and our finisher application with that, because usually not done until May. But we do anticipate just the regular ability and liability and all the insurance going up slightly. The service contracts for our computer maintenance and network maintenance has gone up somewhat. We did do an RFP last year. We actually changed companies, but it still seems to go up every year. Replacement computers on that part actually did go down because we don't have as many, and we are extending to 5 years. We're pushing them to 6. If they're on our 7-year replacement, we're pushing them to 8. Some of them we cannot push because, like our tenants' computers, our financial computers, they have to be replaced. We did reduce our professional fees last couple of years. We haven't had big issues with the contract, so as long as we don't have issues with the contract, we can leave that down. Fire prevention, there's printing costs for helmets and colored books are going up slightly. The apparatus is a big thing. Our chief engineer, he is busy all the time with repairs. Parts and labor have increased. For repairs, we are very fortunate. Our annual inspections and maintenance. That contractor has held for 2 years now their regular pricing, but the other parts of labor are going up. And then we're getting more frequent and more major repairs due to the age of the apparatus. And then we do have tire replacements every 7 years, no matter what the mileage is on the tires, they have to be replaced because of our potential high-speed driving. The fire equipment supplies, the overall account did decrease, and that just comes in cycles as the chief points out that he needs things. That actually went down a little bit. The supplies went up, but the overall did come down. And then our volunteer incentive and training, we reduced some costs. You're all aware that we made some changes for our priorities. Banquet ceremony we usually have, that is costly, so that has gone down just to a members only event. Very casual, not very much money spent. But we do, that line item did increase greatly. We have got to get with the times and do cancer screenings on our members. They are exposed to carcinogens, which is smoke and hazards, and we have to provide that. We've got to offer that, and we've got to make sure all our members are getting their annual physicals. We have been very fortunate not to have any injuries, but we have had some of our physicals detect heart conditions and things in our volunteers. We're talking about our volunteer staff. They're donating their time, they're putting themselves at risk, so we should be doing the right thing and making sure they have physicals and cancer screening. The next page is just your index, if you will, to help you later on. You can't remember what's in a specific category, remind you of that. And the last page, like I said, was just showing you where we were back from FY, just so you see where we are. And there are some years that exceeded that operationally and capital, but that 200 number has been pretty steady for quite some time. And the other notes I had just with the, is again the volunteers, that's one of our key things. The chief's doing a great job, the chief, in trying to have the apparatus respond in a safe manner to encourage volunteers to come out. They just don't want to go to the firehouse and sit when the fire alarm goes off. He's making very good effort to get the volunteer recruitment retention. So I applaud what he's trying to do there. And we have to do it on the admin side financially to have these things available.
I agree, Andy. You have been doing a great job, and you've been always open to dialogue with the town and working with our departments. So that goes a long way operationally. So thank you.
And then just to touch on the capital, of course, it's not in front of you because you don't fund anything now, but you got that in December. Our request is, if we can get at some point, we've got to find a way for the town to help with the capital funding. Our engine should be in, that's ordered, should be in May or June. It was delayed a little bit. And our rescue truck, which is also going to carry some water, have additional capability, September-ish, October-ish. And again, those loans, that loan is out till 2038, so we're pretty strapped on our capital side until that loan gets paid off in 2038. And then our air packs should be coming the end of the month. They're due to be shipped, and then we've got a month of training and for chief to get his items assigned and operational training, maintenance training, and then of course working with FEMA to get reimbursed with the company. So that's the capital.
Are you feeling, have you received any guidance that your grant's in jeopardy?
They have a stock answer that they read to you. I'm getting ready to go to a conference later this week, and I'll have face-to-face contact with people, so that'll give me a little more feeling where we are.
Yeah, we're feeling some of that as well with some of our grants that are federally funded.
I don't want to use the word in jeopardy as a prudent thing. We were told, don't cancel your order, keep apprised, there's an 800 number, but what you get back from them, they're reading a canned answer. We they are, because you get the same reply back. But we made Senator Van Hollen, and they're aware, they're up there. They know what the deal is with the grants. So I've not heard of anybody that's had any issue, but we're being cautious.
And the vendors are aware.
Oh,
The vendors watch the news too.
Yeah,
So I think they're giving some flexibility in that.
All right. Any questions for fire? Okay, let's transition to you.
Yeah, so, EMS.
Do you have copies for the finance director?
I don't know how many I even make expenditures.
I can spread them on.
Just give me a copy of the one.
Thank you so much. No, it's not advance. I got it.
So again, the main thing on this cover letter is we'll go right to 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph, just again to reemphasize that the budget for the emergency medical service, 93% of this budget is our personnel. That's what it is. That's the most important part is, as we've said before, the emergency medical service, and they do supplement us on fire and rescue. We say that wholeheartedly. They're all cross-trained. If they're not trained, they're in the process of being cross-trained. But 93% of this budget is the personnel that you see in those ambulances, day in, day out, 24/7, 365. So that part of the budget, the employment committee takes great pride and great priority to make sure that our pay scale stays in line, that we budget the steps that we've developed, that we adjust that pay scale as needed with competition to retain who we have and to recruit who may leave us for whatever reason they leave us. And we do have 2 paramedic vacancies. We have them just about going on 1 year that we've had those.
Have you had applicants?
We have had applicants. We had 3 positions, so we had a new person start last week, full-time position. To give you a quick example, we had a jurisdiction in Maryland that got 18 to 1,900 applications. They hired 1 paramedic. I was in Florida for baseball for spring training and stopped in the place I always stop there and talk, and they're in the same boat. They've had to actually go to staff in BOS ambulances, basically to take their paramedics off the ambulance, put them on the fire truck, and just use that paramedic as needed. Because not putting them on every call. And they say it works well sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't work well.
Rest assured that paramedic is never on hand.
Yeah, they're meeting up. So we just want to stress again, 93% of the budget and personnel is our highest priority.
What is your COLA this year?
So we have budgeted 3%.
3%. Plus a step.
Plus, if the person is due a step, their step. And that would vary. You guys have the scale, depends on the years of service, what kind of step they get. We are having to look at adjusting that scale. We are watching, this is the time of year that we have to watch what all the other agencies do in our area and stay competitive. So this number, gets to be flexible, just like yours is with health insurance and everything else. So we put the best number forward to you, and as we always do, usually with EMS, we end up a follow-up letter in May telling you what adjustments have to be made, because we also have to wait and see what the county does.
So the insurance that's on here, this is the insurance, this insurance is covering health? Was that what you just said?
So,
This budgeted item?
no, the line item for insurance, that is vehicle insurance, a small amount of the building insurance, and the professional liability, and that is, in plain language, that is medical malpractice insurance. If we would do something wrong medically, the insured. And you've got the sheet, the last page there gives you the table of contents or index, whatever you like to call it, to break this down so you can
It says it back.
so you can remember that. Yeah, no, I don't mind answering it, just so you can remember it later if you look at it tomorrow or next week, you can refresh back to that.
Tell me the reasoning behind how long the revenue section. The county grant is projected to increase by $30,000.
Yeah. So on the revenue side, the donations stay about the same. They're hit and miss, but they stay the same. That's the formula that they use, so that's based on call value and transports and the number of people we have. That's that pretty complicated formula that I've given you all the sheets before on that during the work sessions. But that is because of call value. Our calls obviously went up, or if our calls didn't go up, we get paid more for our transport, or not paid, but reimbursed in that formula. So it's call based on 2024 calls.
And go down to the town, that looks like it's like almost 90,000.
90,000, and the way we do the budget, we've talked ad nauseum about a formula, and we've never come to that. So as we do the budget, we continue, we do the revenue, we do the expenses, and whatever the delta is, whatever the difference is, that gets plugged in for the town number. So we do the revenues, we do the donations, the invoices, the county grant, the banking interest, and you see it went down. The reason it's going to go down is we're going to pay out the money we have in the bank for the ambulance, so that banking interest will go down. And then we do all the expenses, and whatever that balance is, there is no other place to ask for, so that's where it breaks down.
Well, staying in line with your revenue estimates, your EMS invoicing, you said that you're with a new company that's getting better, and your FY25 budget shows a projection of $550,000. Your 8 to 9 months of your actual for FY25 shows about $574,000. And if you break that down per month, even at 9 months, and then annualize that, you should be about $700,000.
So this year, there's going to be a one-year anomaly. If you recall, in some of the work sessions that have brought to your attention is the Medicare billing system that was down in last fiscal year. So the reason we're coming up so much this year, that should actually have been last year's revenue. And then there's going to be a potential cut in Medicaid. So when we talked to the billing company, that was the number that we conservatively felt comfortable with because the Medicaid is probably going to go down. It may even go to 0.
Okay.
Just the federal Medicaid.
Still happy with the collection rate that you guys are getting?
Yep, and we changed some, if you look at the next page where we explain the revenue expenses, the new EMS billing company, and we do very aggressive collections through Bay Area Collections. Also new internal review procedures, just basically, I'll tell you what that is about every 3 days I go in the system myself and look at things just to try to help out. There's things that the billing company is not going to know. Just because I know that somebody in our company would know the geography and to make sure the addresses look correct, things like that. And they will eventually catch it, but the biggest thing is auto accidents, your personal injury protection insurance, your PIP. Once that money's expended, and that's first come, first served. So if our ambulance bill for like an accident goes to the wrong address because somebody say fat fingered a zip code or something, and the billing company has to wait for that to go out in mail, come back, and then they resend it. Well, by that time, that personal injury protection could be spent that quick. So there's really three things. Those three things in cohesiveness have brought the billing up together. All three together, not any one jumps right out.
And your number for career personnel, that's an all-in number? That includes the health insurance?
That includes everything from nuts to soup, yes. That is all their overtime. That is covering the shifts when people are off work. That is our supervision plan. That is the new Maryland Leave Act that's supposed to come into play. That small percentage that has to be figured out. The uniforms, training, yes, everything from A to Z.
Dave, you used a term that I have never heard used before.
What's that, sir?
If someone fat fingered an address.
You ever heard that? Fat fingers on the keyboard?
I've never heard it before.
And I'll raise my hand, I'm a guilty one for it.
We used to say that when the guys had to punch in meter readings.
So they currently, but now they're just
Yeah, they did that to our parking lot bill. I think we got a $2,000 electric bill for the parking lot out back. We should get $5.75. The career personnel, so somebody start back at the top. The medical supplies, just slightly lower. We have one of our career staff been doing a great job looking at the expenses, even though they're going up, and we've negotiated with our main supplier to get some little bit better pricing, and we're trying to order in quantities when we can. That helps us out, but we always have to watch expiration dates on our medical supplies. The office supplies, just a few less computers this year. Again, we stretch them out a little bit past what the IT people suggest, but we don't put ourselves in a critical situation, but we're conservative on that. Career personnel, we've discussed quite a bit. The training, just increasing the training, that's not our career staff, but that's our volunteer. The career training, as I just said, is in that professional, that career personnel, but our providers still need training. We need CPR training, AED training, all our volunteers. That goes up, and keep abreast of the new protocols. Volunteer incentives, we've had that, our same incentive program. Our volunteers do get a small stipend if they run the 30 EMS calls or assist if it's a cardiac arrest on those calls. So just a slight change there. And then medical equipment, that is the replacement equipment as things go age out, or again, those cost of people coming to do the required maintenance is going up because their travel costs are going up. I'm sure they're probably getting pay raises as well. The insurance that Councilmember Nichols talked about, that's based on our preliminary quoting, and that's the vehicle and the liability and medical malpractice. And then the vehicle expenses, which is another large one. We're year 10, we're going into year 10 with one ambulance, and year 9 with the other one. So as they get to those last years, they always seem to give us problems. And we've been down to one ambulance over the last maybe 3 or 4 months ago and had to try to borrow ambulances. Luckily, it happened in the winter time where the city can help us out. So just in my other notes, just again to reiterate, the personnel is our EMS corporation, especially the Board Committee, the #1 priority of all those personnel things. And it is, and again, it's a moving target until we get our final health insurance numbers and we listen to what our neighboring companies are doing with their pay scales. And the county still working on their budget as far as informative base there, as Vice President Burrell asked.
So actually, on that point, I had a question for you. In the county meeting packet, I think it was last week, talked about ambulance grants are included, an increase of $966,000 based on the EMS request letter. And then in here it says, and I just had a question, maybe you can clarify, it says the EMS request includes an increase non-credit out of town and credit runs in town from 250 to 280, and credit runs out of town from 1,000 to 1,120. I'm just not familiar with that credit run in town.
Yep, so that's the formula. So if it's an in-town call that we transport, that's what they call a credit call. So we would get $250
from the county.
From the county.
In town.
County for in town. If we do not transport, we get $0. If it's in the county and we don't transport, we get the $250. And again, that's if you recall, that's where the county is interpreting, or whatever word you want to use, that the town should be picking up those in-town calls.
I know we've talked about that.
And then the out-of-town transport is just 4 times, whatever the in-town rate is, it's 4 times for the out-of-town.
Gotcha, okay. I was wondering if that phrase.
That's going to change our budget somewhat if any of that stuff gets approved. I mean, tomorrow's the work session down there, and you get feedback. That's why we always have to send with the EMS, why you always get another letter in May with adjustments, because we start to get those pieces of puzzle.
Any other questions for EMS? All right. Thank you all. We're staying because we've got some more time together at the end.
Need to do so?
Yeah. Thank you. Andy, you can start thinking about what tickets you want to. All right, let's
buy a smaller police car this year.
We're getting lights. All right.
A cloaking device on my car.
The item 8 on our work session agenda, comments from the council. Start with Vice President Burrell.
I don't have
Councilmember Heck.
any. It's a long night.
Thank you. Councilmember Councilmember Nichols.
So I have only one thing to say. I saw that picture that was taken from when our utilities person, my brain can't remember his name at the moment, when he was awarded, when we celebrated him and what have you.
David Davis.
What?
David Davis.
Dave.
probably.
Yes, everybody was present, and I was like this. David, I was not sitting here looking like, oh gosh, this is how I sit every day, no joke. I am like this after 3 o'clock every day. I was truly excited for you. So that picture was brought to my attention. Look at your face in that photo. You look very happy. I was ecstatic. You just couldn't tell by my face.
You didn't have your gloves on.
Yeah, that's the only difference. That would have been great.
I was excited on the inside.
I truly was excited on the outside too, so please don't take that personal. Somebody was like, you look really bothered. I wasn't. I can't help it sometimes if I'm sitting here like this. I'm sorry, I wasn't being rude.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Horace.
So, thank you. I didn't say anything a lot, well, I didn't say a lot during the thing because I saved everything until now.
Dean said he's taking your notes.
But yeah, I got my notes here. So, just, I'll try to be quick here. Just some things in the elected officials' budget. It should be 1 FTE, right?
Well, I think the categorization's okay. I mean,
Okay.
full-time, part-time that part doesn't matter.
And then I had a question about the street study.
Okay.
It is not a study, it's an upgrade to existing.
To the
An
To
update.
the existing study, so it is not a full study, it's just an update.
Okay, that makes sense. And some of you will hear, this is a repeat for you, but with all the work that's going into the new parking lot, I think it would be good if we could have an update on West Street and the design that we requested a fiscal year or 2 ago.
Oh, you're talking about the West Street.
Yes.
The overall improvements. Yes, absolutely.
So I think we should just have that. I think that would be good.
I think we're planning to do that at one of our meetings in April, I think, depending on, remember we talked about the general fund budget?
Somewhere.
Please repeat, I'm not following.
So we talked about in the general fund staff level meeting that we had, providing an update on the work that's been done so far by DBF with the planning for West Street.
Okay.
And then I'm talking about, I'm sorry.
No, that's.
You can hear me, right?
I can hear you, I'm just trying to figure it out, is any changes to the budget?
Nope. No,
I'm
no,
trying
no,
to take in notes.
Just to review.
Just an update.
Just an update. And we have another meeting going on after this, so I don't want to take up too much more time. But I do want to brush upon 2 concerns. And I don't want anyone to take anything how I'm going on things. But why are some of the anniversary cards higher than others? Why is there some 20 and some 10?
Oh, Chelsea's
It
not.
depends on the years of service.
Yeah.
So,
I don't remember the exact thing, but it's the amount of years of service.
it depends on the years of service. So if you're completing a year or 2, most people at a certain time, so it's $10, and if you pass a certain time, it goes up to $20.
Chelsea can give you a full.
She can give you a complete
With
accounting of
rundown.
that, yeah.
We'll have her follow up.
That's all for me.
Okay, Councilmember Green.
I don't have anything else for now.
Okay, thank you. Item 9, comments from the mayor, I've talked enough. Item 10, Vice President Burrow.
Move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? All right. So then now, we're going to take 5 minutes, and then we are going to move over to this table. Fisher, you're good, you don't need to stay.